Yeah, g'day guys. Today we're making a stand. Had enough. Here we go. So this is the vise that I've actually been asked to make a stand for this vise. It's not a little one. It's got a huge opening, but the jaw is only 150 mil, 6 inches. But it has a really long opening. I'd sort of suspect about 400 mil. I haven't actually tried to wind it out yet because it keeps toppling over off the bench. So we're going to make a post, a base for it, so we can be able to dynabolt it to the floor, or bolt it down to the floor with some anchors. While you're doing one, you may as well do two. So this one's for a friend and the other one is for myself. So hang on. So here's my good old vise. It doesn't open quite as far, like the throat of it doesn't go out as far, but that's fine. It's a fabricated vise. So in saying that, it's not a cast iron one or anything, but it does have its faults. Like this opening here is actually about 1.5 mil wider than this opening, because I've probably wrenched on the old handle there too much, cranked on it. So I'm going to make a post, a stand for this one as well. So like I said, while you're doing one, you may as well do two. And the plan is to put it right here for mine, right where this sort of shelves are. Like the shelves are on wheels, and like, I mean, they're the crappiest set of wheels I've ever seen in my life. That roller door that's right behind it, it's got a fair bit of height on it. It's only about 2 meters high with the opening, like, because it only opens to about there. So where the main door has got 3 meters. But sometimes it's handy to drive something in here because there is plenty of room. Like there's a good 6 meters going that way. What I need to do is, once I've moved this, and if I still want to use this roller door, I need to be able to move that post without too much trouble. Like just pull a pin and away we go. So make it so it hinges or something like that. So let's start getting into that. But here's the material I'm going to make the post out of. It's a huge big piece of pipe. It's about 170 across. Now this little plate that's just sitting here, it's a piece of 10 mil, 3/8. You can see that it's quite a substantial piece of pipe. Just got to drill some holes in it to anchor it down, or to work out the hinging mechanism or something. So I've got to cut that in half and make it about the right height. So, because what sort of like to do, this bench is just over 900 high, so just over 3 feet, which is a good bench height. Like a kitchen table height, like that's a table height there, that's just over 700 mil, and that one's 900. So a good height for workbenches is 900 and kitchen tables 700. So and these ones over here, for some reason, it's a bit over 1 meter. I don't know why, it was always like that. So you just go with what you got. So anyway, but this piece of pipe is about 1800 long. So if I cut it in half, I can make my 2 posts out of it. It's perfect. So let's start cutting some steel and work out a few dimensions on these bases, on how big a piece of plate I need. I think this one's a little bit bigger than 200. So I'll have to cut another little piece and see what I can work out. But this one should be relatively simple. But let's make them sturdy, because vices of this size, you're going to really be putting something substantial in it and really cranking on that handle. Looks like this one's had someone's put a bit of pipe on it to crank it down, and it doesn't look like it doesn't have removable jaws, which is very unusual. But that's all right. We will let's get in making some posts. Here we go. So you saw me clean this up just before, and if you have a look along it, it's not that flat or straight, if you understand what I mean. Like there's a couple of bumps in it. It was just cut really roughly. Well, there's a big divot there, which is okay, and I can work with that. But does anybody know the easiest way to cut around a piece of pipe that's nice and square? Like I've got the center mark there because it's just under 1800, and I want two bits at about 900, so it's just under that, so it's actually 890, which will be fine. That'll be okay because I'm using 10mm plate, these bits here. So the trick to cut around a piece of pipe and keep it true and square, or relatively, is use a couple of bits of paper, because they're, well, you'd hope that they're nice and square. If you've got a smaller piece of pipe, you can just lay it around there and it'll reach the other side and it will be true. So if you meet up the two joints, but this piece of pipe's a little bit bigger, so what we're going to do is just put them perfectly together and put a little bit of tape on it, if I can get the light right. Put a little piece of tape on them. So I'll do that, and I'll, hang on, here we go. So they're taped together and you can see the edges, there's absolutely no gaps, and it's true, if you know what I mean, like they're both in line. So that's just sort of where the joint is. So there's no actual gaps. So it's one big long rectangle, you could say, ish. So if you put that on there and join it up on the other side, which is really difficult with one hand, so I'll just put them together and I'll show you what I mean. So they're all joined up, and that's where that open join was, and they're perfectly, so there's the other original join that I had. So if you line up those two pieces of paper, like that's overlapped, so if you overlap them, which is a bonus I guess, you will have a perfectly straight line to cut. So I know you can't cut it with the paper there, so I'm just gonna use the old Nico pen and mark all the way around it, and then I know it's going to be square to this, so that's going to be square, if you understand what I mean. If you put a square on it, actually it's going to be perfect. Now I've left this bit of chunk on here because I think this was a huge big water pipe, like for big industrial building. I think it was like a sprinkler system type thing, and I don't quite know what to do with that yet. I'll cut it off, like the crappy bit, and keep the pipe on there. It'll be something different. And this is where it's been joined, so yet again this edge is not perfect, but I can work with that, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But there's no point me trying to take that off and having a fresh piece, because that'll be underneath the cover plate, yeah, at the top, so you won't really see it or care or know or bother. So anyway, so that's the trick to making a square cut on a piece of round material, for those who didn't know. Anyway, I'll use our marker pen and I'll tape this on so it doesn't move, and then I'll make the cut. So here we go. Well, there you go. That's how you cut some pipe relatively round. Now, well, actually, that's how you mark it out. Now, if you actually have a look at the cut, that's pretty close. Just a few little slight bumps. Cutting it is a different story. It's actually very, very close. Just a few little bumps. But that'll be fine because we're going to use spirit level and all those other fancy type tools to make sure it's standing up straight. So I've got the other one just sitting on top of a piece of plate to see how it looks, and I'll work out marking some holes and things like that. Sort of work it out from, is the big one upside down, so I'll just work out the hole dimensions and things like that, and then I'll actually unbolt. I'll unbolt this one and work out the dimensions on that one. So here we go. So here's something that you got to be careful about when you make your own posts and bases for vices, or even when you mount the vise, you know, just on the corner of your bench or however you want to do it, is make sure that the base isn't further forward than the actual jaw of the vise, because the fixed jaw. Because if you put something tall in there, and you want it to hang down, you know, way down past nearly even on the ground, or even something that is on the ground, and you've got the vise sort of, there we go, sort of like that, which some people may or may not do, that'll be in the way, if you know what I mean. So, you know, you'll put something down there and it'll, yeah, you'll try and do it up in the vise and that'll be in the way. So always try, no, don't try, just do. Always make sure that you've got at least a bit of a gap, because you don't know whether the piece that you got straight, or even bring it right to the front if you want to. That's up to you. I sort of don't mind just having it like that. And then you'll be golden. So I've just got to centralize that. I was just making sure that where I was in a good spot and it didn't foul with the fixed jaw. Like, I mean, this one is got removable jaws, where the other big old thing doesn't have removable jaws. They're for some reason part of it. But what I might do is might go back to this edge, if you know what I mean, with the square, because I may down the track unknowingly put thicker or thinner jaws in if I ever change it. I might just move that forward a tad more. And when I mean a tad, just an imperial one, you know, not a, we don't go this metric stuff. Anyway, so I'll move it just a little bit more forward, and it will be, and centralize it, and then we'll be right, and then I can start doing some drilling for all of these. So let's get into that. Here we go. Okay, this is what I was talking about before. Can you sort of see how the gap is like, yeah, there's high points and bits and pieces. And if you look at that bubble, it's not level. So if you look at that, it's very, very close to the center. Close enough for myself. And same with that one. So the post itself is perpendicular to my concrete slab. So if you have a look under there, there we go. Look at that big, huge gap in there. So, and that's because it wasn't cut very true or square. It was just cut off, just to make it happen. So if you put the square on it like that, it's way out. So this end needs to come up. So what I do normally with something that's not square and you want it to be square is you tack it on, like I would tack it just there, and then just pry this up, even if it's just with a screwdriver, until that bubble's level. And then you just go around the other side and do a very similar sort of situation. You tack it on the side that the bubble's closest to, and then you just pry this side up. But what I'm gonna have to do is do this way first, I think. Yeah. So I'll have a bit of fun with that and see how we go. See if I can actually get it level, which I should be able to. It's just a bit of mucking around, and at the worst, if you do a tack that is, you go, oh damn, well I can't get it level, just cut the tack with the grinder and give it a bash with a hammer and it'll come apart. So then you'll be able to do it properly. So anyway, let's get into it. So this is what I was talking about. That's level. We've got a couple of tacks in there, but you can see there's a big gap. One side is touching, which is this, where this tack is here, but the rest is all gaps all around it, which is okay because we need plenty of gaps. That's nice and level there in the bubble, and you can see these gaps, but there's 4 good tacks holding it all together. But the top plate is level and this post is level, like it's true in those angles. So I will now sit it up on the bench and give it some heat, and heat it I will. So I'll give it a bit of heat and lock it in, and then that one's virtually done. Something that you got to be mindful of is lining up this edge, if you're trying to do it right, with that very bottom edge just down there. That edge down there, line it up with this one here just by looking over the top of it. Not sure if my camera will let me do that. Close, yeah, see? Once I weld that on, I can give that one give it a coat of paint, and it'll be ready. Then I just got to do the other one for myself. So what do you think of them welds? Am I okay? I think my welder didn't like it. I nearly had it on flat out and it kept tripping out the circuit breaker. But you saw how they're all just little short bits. Well, because I tacked it all the way around, and then I did a short bit over here, then I did a short bit over there, then a short bit over there, it wasn't going to pull it out of square. Well, not by very much anyway. So I gave it its best chance to hopefully be flat to the post, like true to the post. But anyway, let's get this up on the bench and fill in gaps up. Here we go. So there it is, all done, all welded up in its glory, if that's what you can call it. I had to add on that extra piece, as I showed you before. My friend's Vise has got a bigger base on it, so that's why I've added that extra bit. I'd have to say that one's done, so I'll just quickly finish the other one, then we'll whack a bit of paint on them. So here we go. She's all bolted in and bolted down. I only put little 10mm anchors in it at the moment because I'm not real sure on that's exactly where I want it because of this roll door. I rarely ever, actually I've only ever used it once to get a car in here, so where I can just use this big open sort of area here. Now the reason you're probably going to ask why'd you do that? Well, because it if you have a little look-see under there, there's nowhere to put a nut, so I had to thread this plate. I just threaded it to 12mm, and instead of just cutting a bolt short, I just threaded in as far as the bolt would go and then pull the nut down. So I thought that's just as good. Like the rear bolts are 8.8 tensile, and the front ones are, I think they're 12.8 or 12.5 tensile strength bolts. So they're going to be way stronger than these little 10mm anchors at the bottom. So, and I also, whether you saw it, I connected up, now this is an earth lead from my welder, and this cable coming in the back there, it actually is connected to the frame of the shed, because if you have a bit of a look-see, that's all steel beam there, goes across on the other side of that light. Steel beam goes all the way back down there. And over here where my welder is, I've connected, as just a welding electrode holder, but it's connected to the steel frame of the shed. So the earth is connected to the shed, is also connected to this steel plate, and now it's connected to my vise and that earth lead. So I could undo that earth lead, like unravel that earth lead and put it out in the middle here to whatever project I wanted to weld on. So, and here is the big beefy one that my friend asked me to make. So that's his big vise, nice big post. The holes at the bottom for the anchors are 12mm, so 1/2 inch, so you'll be able to certainly put some serious anchors in it, unlike mine's only got little 10s. Yeah, I'm not convinced that's where it's going to stay. So, but anyway, that's the project at hand, to make a couple of posts, and so job's done. Go and deliver this one now. Yeah, so there we go, guys. Job's all done. Some really nice Vise posts, if that's what you want to call them, a Vise post. And it's not an offensive post. Anyway, guys, so if you thought that this video gave you some value and a good how-to welding project, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you'd like to consider subscribing. It certainly helps the channel out, and leave a comment on if you would have done it any different. I did think of making the bases a little bit bigger, but that's the plate that I had at the time, so that's what we went with. But guys, anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one, eh? See ya.